Hey everyone, David here from Beyond Bikes, and today I'm going to be swapping over the crankset and bottom bracket on my Polygon Bend R2. It's an entry-level gravel bike, and because of that, one of the entry-level parts on it is the bottom bracket and Prowheel crankset that it comes with. I want to swap it out with something with more teeth in the chainring, so I've gone out and purchased the Shimano Sora 50-32 tooth crankset. And that uses the Shimano Hollowtech 2 bottom bracket. So I'm going to be taking out this square taper bottom bracket and swapping it for a Hollowtech, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. And first up, these are the tools you'll need. So this is what you'll need to get started. Obviously your new crank and Hollowtech bottom bracket, a number of hand tools, hex keys, screwdriver, a number of bike specific tools. So here we have a crank puller for a square taper bottom bracket crank. Here we have a dedicated square taper bottom bracket removal tool. It removes the cartridge from the frame. And a Hollowtech tool, which is what is used to install the new bottom bracket into the frame.
And I forgot to mention this in the video, but you'll also need a crank arm pre-tensioning tool as well.
A torque wrench or normal wrench with a 3/8 inch drive. And you'll just need a bit of grease as well, just for the installation of the new bottom bracket. So let's get underway. And the first thing you want to do is just get rid of this little dust cover here and just use a screwdriver to pull that off. Next up, we're just going to loosen this nut off, which requires an 8mm hex key. That's off. This is where the crank puller comes to play. But before I do, I'm gonna take this chain off first, just so I've got a bit more room to work with. And now we can undo this crank. So what I'm gonna do here is, with this tool, I'm going to screw this threaded part in here. And then once that's done, I'm gonna then gently tighten this up so it pulls the crank off. This threads into the crank, and then this pushes on the square taper in the middle there and pushes it off. So first thing you want to do is you want to wind it all the way out so that pointy bit doesn't stick out from the end. And once that's ready, you can just screw it in, and you just need to screw it in by hand, pretty much in. So now I'm just going to screw this in by hand. Once that's done, this is where you take your shifters, put one on the base to hold it still, and one around the pulling arm, and now you can start cranking it off. And I'm getting resistance, and now it's becoming looser. So that crank should now just come off. So now I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side, and I'm not going to worry about the dust cap. I'm just going to take the whole bolt out, and the dust cap will come out with it. Get back our trusty crank puller again, bolt it in, and we'll get the 2 adjustable spanners and just do it all again. Now that crank is off. So now it's time to remove the old bottom bracket, and I'm going to start with the non-drive side using the bottom bracket removal tool. Now I've got this tool from Amazon, and it's a specific tool for this specific bottom bracket. And the non-drive side is standard thread, so lefty loosey, righty tighty. So the way this works is you're going to get the splines to meet up, and you're going to use this tool to screw it into the axle, and that's just going to center the tool onto the splines so that it doesn't slip off. It's looking pretty good. And now I just need to give it a big heave. This might be difficult to do on a bike stand because the bike's moving around. So if you do have troubles, just take it off and do it there. Now I've just taken this down to the floor to get a bit more leverage on it. So it's going to be tight. Just push down and it should come out fairly easily. And now we can unscrew the axle. And now it should just come out fairly quickly. That's the non-drive side out. Let's flip the bike over. We're on the drive side. Now this is reverse threaded, so it's righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. So swing the arm towards the front wheel to loosen it up. Stay nice and tight, and just give it a big heave. There we go. Undo this. Now it's out. Now I've got the bottom bracket out. What I'm going to do is just weigh this up compared to the new ones and see what the weight difference is. So let's start by weighing the old bottom bracket. And crank. Get the old crank on. The bolt and the cartridge. As you can see, we've got a weight of 1,067 grams, so 1.07 kilograms. Now let's try the new one. The new Sora crank. Crank arm. And the new bottom bracket. And we have, oops. We have a weight of 1,053 or 52 grams. So it's really only about 10 grams difference between the two, but the benefit of Hollowtech is that there's a lot more cranks that can fit inside this bottom bracket. And so this is going to be highly serviceable, easily replaceable. So I'm much happier with this particular crank set anyway. So let's get it on the bike. Look, this bike's barely been ridden yet, but I'm just going to give it a quick clean out. And that rag has basically come out perfectly clean. I'm going to grab our grease and our new bottom bracket. Just take a bit of grease, just apply it to the insides here. This will stop it from seizing up in the future. And a little bit on the threads here as well. There, you won't need too much because you've already got some here. So what we're going to do now is do this by hand and just do it very gently. The last thing we want to do is cross thread this, and remember we're on the drive side, which you want to do first, and it's the opposite thread, so righty loosey, lefty tighty. So insert it in, turn it left, and just make sure it just glides in by hand. Shouldn't feel any resistance at all. And that's in, hand tight. Brilliant. So now we're just going to grab our bottom bracket tool, which just slides straight on here. And our torque wrench with a 3/8 adapter, because this fits 3/8 or whatever your tool fits. And this needs to be tightened to about 40 Newton meters. There we go, we are at about 40 Newton meters. So, put the tool on. Insert your torque wrench. And torque it down. Oops, reverse thread. And that's on. Now time to flip the bike around and do the non-drive side. So same thing here, a little bit of grease. Alright, now same deal on this side. Hand tight, and this one's standard thread, so righty tighty, lefty loosey. Should just ease in, no resistance. And it will start to tighten a little bit because it's starting to line up with the bottom bracket from the other side. But you still should be able to just fit it in by hand. I'm gonna actually get myself a rag to get a bit more grip. Yep, perfect. So this one's set to 40. Let's get going. All right, now it's time to get the cranks in. So now I'm back on the drive side. I'm going to put in the drive side crank. Now I just need to make sure that this is actually not going to foul on the derailleur. It looks like it might just, oh no, it'll just fit. I'll adjust that later on. When you rotate it, it'll just spread itself out anyway. That looks fine to me. And let's chuck it in. There we go. It just fouls on the derailleur. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosen this up and move it up a bit. I've just readjusted that slightly just so it's out of the way. I'll line it up properly later on, but all the way through. Good to go. So now we're on the non-drive side, and this is the crank here. Now this one has a little bit different. It's got a little tab here, and what that is like a little drop pin. And if I spin this around, you will see there's a hole on the drive side crank spindle, and when you tighten this up, that actually drops into the hole. So you want to make sure that drop pin lines up with that hole. So we're going to do that right now. Now this also has a pre-tensioning nut, and what that does is just clamp this down onto the spindle a little bit tighter, and this is the nut that comes with it. And this uses a special sort of star tool. That's what the blue tool is, and it uses a, now a lot of tools actually have the tool that fits this little crevice here on the back of the bottom bracket tool, but I don't, so I bought a separate one, and that just fits in right in, and just tighten that on. And that'll just get the cranks as close as possible to being on. Don't want to over tighten it. Just make sure that there's no gaps. All right, now it's time to tighten. Now this clip should just drop in, which it has. And you need to revert to a 5mm and start tightening these two nuts up here in a zigzag pattern. So we'll tighten this side up a little bit, and this side. Now it'll say it on the crank, you need to get it to 12 to 14 Newton meters. Now I can generally do this by hand, it's not very tight at all. That should be about right, I think. Done. So that's it. That's what you need to do to convert from a square taper to Hollowtech 2 bottom bracket and crankset. So now all you need to do from here is fit in a new chain, and I'll do another video which goes through chain fitting, because this one will be slightly longer than my older chain. I won't be able to reuse it because this has a few extra teeth on the big ring. But yeah, if you're not happy with your current cranks, it's a fairly simple change to make if you've got the right tools, which if you look on AliExpress or Amazon, you can come across very cheaply. So that's it for now. If you have any comments or questions, let me know down in the comments. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one.